Everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and this is going to be just a very short video. I know I always say it's going to be short and it ends up being like 20 to 30 minutes long, but I swear this is going to be short. It's basically just to give you guys an update on what happened with the R. Kelly case today in court. As you guys know, in my video from yesterday, which is part 14 of the R. Kelly series, actually it might have been part 15 of the R. Kelly series. I talked about his court date yesterday, which was actually a hearing on the indictment against him in Cook County courts. Today he had two hearings. The first hearing was about the Danielle / Heather Williams civil suit against him. And in that case, the judge did rule in his favor. Remember, he was served with a subpoena while he was locked up for the child support issue. And he had a hearing. He didn't show up for the hearing. And so now that he's assembled this legal team to represent him, and it looks like each attorney has their own portion of the case. So like there was a lady that showed up today in the child support case that I had never heard of before. So he has someone that's handling, of course, Steve Greenberg is he's over all of the legal team. And so he's in charge of the civil case. And then, he's in charge of the criminal case. And then he has a couple of lawyers that's going to be helping him, including a woman named Nicole Plank. And Nicole Plank she said that she's a former prosecutor. And her specialty, I guess she's a specialist in sex crime. She was over the sex crime division, and you can hear her talk a little bit about it in my last video. And so he has another guy who has like an Indian name. He was the one that represented him in the civil case, and then in the child support case there was a new lady named Lisa D'Amico or something like that. So anyway, the civil case, they went before the judge. They explained, that he was locked up, he was stressed out. They don't know when he was handed this document, or if he had the chance to look it over, or if they told him what it was, but he didn't. He was so overwhelmed and frazzled that he didn't pay attention to it. So the judge did rule in their favor, and she vacated the default judgment, because when he didn't appear in court a couple of weeks ago, then that made the Heather Williams lady, she won by default. So now that's been vacated. They've set a new trial date or a new hearing date for June 19th. And so I'm not sure what's going to happen, if that's going to be the actual court case where they hear the claim that the Heather Williams woman has against him, or if it's just going to be another preliminary hearing. But that's going to take place on June 19th. So after he left that court, he went to the child support court. And child, let me tell y'all, Miss Drea, I have come to the conclusion after reading all these stories about this hearing today, that Drea is trying to cough up some documents, some drama for her role on Growing Up Hip Hop. So let's go over what Miss Drea did today in court. And she did show up to court. Now remember, she hadn't been at none of the other hearings, but she showed up today, now that we know that she gonna be on Growing Up Hip Hop. So of course she wanted the back child support that he owed. And remember, I talked about in the last video that he hadn't paid. So they paid the $161 to catch up the arrears, but then he didn't pay March, he didn't pay April, and now he is due for May. So his attorneys pulled out a cashier's check, and they handed Miss Drea her check and told her, here's your money for March, April, and May. So then they told him that, oh, well, you owe interest on the back child support, and the interest is $32,000. Now, y'all help me make this make sense. Like, we charging interest on child support? Like, how do you charge interest on child support? I don't understand this, but anyway, that's what they doing over there, and a couple of people verified with me that they do charge interest on back child support, and they try to get it any way that they can, and so I'm not understanding that. So now they telling him he owed $32,000 for this back interest, and I'm thinking, what interest rate were they using? Because if he was only behind on child support for 8 or 9 months, because remember he pays $22,000 a month, and the arrears was $161. So that's what, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's like almost 8 months. So what was the interest rate on that hundred and some dollars, $161,000 that it grew to be $32,000? Excuse me. So I didn't understand that. So then Drea comes up and says, well, in addition to the child support, in addition to the interest that he owes, I also want him to pay tuition for Joanne Buku Abi to go to college. So I'm thinking, okay, now first of all, homegirl is 21 years old, and she should be graduating from college. But if you go over to her Instagram page, you'll see that she is pursuing a career as a singer and don't look like she been in nobody college. So I don't know where homegirl is coming from with this. So the child support lawyer was like, show us where she's enrolled in somebody's school and we may consider the child support. But until then, we're not paying no child support. And I'm just sitting there like, really, Drea, is this really what we're going to do now? So then a motion was raised. Oh, and then people were saying that he was going to court today to ask that the amount of child support be reduced. But according to the Chicago Tribune, he dropped that motion. He says he doesn't want to reduce the child support. He wants to take care of his kids. He won't have a relationship with his kids. So I'm like, these lawyers R. Kelly done got on his team. They sound like they strategizing, y'all. So I don't know where this money is coming from, but hey, he paid what he owed, and so then they came up and said that remember the reporters had entered the motion where they want access to the divorce decree between R. Kelly and Drea. And so the judge ruled that they are going to make the case public. And so Drea said, well, she only wanted public back to December. Anything before December, she doesn't want it to be public. So then R. Kelly's people were saying basically, we think it should be private. We don't want it to be public. But Drea was, she said, no, I want it to be public. I think everybody needs to see what's going on. So I'm thinking, okay, Drea really thought that he was going to roll up in there and not have that money. They were going to lock him up again. She was going to get some footage for growing up hip hop. But honey, that backfired on her. I guess some lawyers was ready for that. So then when they said that they was going to make the records public and they're going to make any hearings going forward, they're going to make those public too so that the media can be in there and televising or recording their child support hearings. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, what you got to be keep going to court for child support? Like, I done got child support for my kids before. What we going to court? Like, the only time we had to go to court was if the person wasn't paying. Well, honey, they was ready, okay, because they said, oh, okay, well, we're going to open an escrow account and we're going to pay for June, July, and August in the escrow account. So they making sure that they ain't coming back to that courtroom anytime soon. So Drea, growing up hip hop, gonna be finished recording for this little season that you're gonna be on, sweetheart, and you won't be getting no footage from Mr. Robert Kelly for your storyline. But what do you guys think about them making it public? Because the judge ruled, going forward that the hearings will be public. Anytime they have to come to court, it will be public. And then she's also going to unseal their divorce documents. And so there was an attorney there, or I don't know if it was an attorney, but it was somebody there representing the kids, which we know ain't no kids. These are grown kids. Only one of them is underage. And so their representative was there, and they were basically saying that they don't want anything pertaining to the kids to be made public. And so I think the judge did agree that their stuff wouldn't be made public. What else did they talk about? Oh, and then they are going to, so R. Kelly and Drea's attorneys have to come together and sit down and go through all the documents, all the files pertaining to their divorce from 13 years. Because remember, they divorced in like 2006 was when he filed for divorce. So they got to go through 13 years of documents and decide what can be made public and what is going to remain sealed. So I'm like, child, like how long is that going to take and how much is that going to cost? And Drea, sounds to me like all your child support money that you're getting is going to pay your lawyer, because then the lawyer going to jump up and say that she thinks it's a wonderful idea that it's going to be made public, because then that'll keep him honest and that'll make him pay his child support on time. And I'm just like, make it make sense, okay? Can we just make it make sense? So I know TMZ, they sound like they were very upset, that R. Kelly didn't go to jail, and when they had to report this news, that he came in there with that cashier's check, and he, they're going to reopen that first case. They seem to be very disappointed. All they gave us was like a little blurb. Yesterday they was all in the courtroom with the cameras. Today we didn't get no camera action from TMZ. They dropped that blurb out there, and that was all she wrote, okay? And so that was all I want to share with you guys in this little short video, just to let you know that they vacated the default in the Heather Williams case. They're going to convene on June 19th. And to let you guys know that with the child support, he came ready with a $62,000 cashier's check. He either, like one article I read said that they opened an escrow account and put the next 3 months in the account. And then another article that I read said that Steve Greenberg said that they were going to open an escrow account and that they would put June and July into the account. So we know either there is or there's about to be an escrow account. And and then the lawyer, and then they'll have like either 2 to 3 months on reserve, and then the courts can pull that money out of that escrow account, and then R. Kelly doesn't have to deal with Drea, and they'll have to come back to this courthouse, and she can't get no footage for growing up hip-hop. And then the other thing that the attorney said, she argued about him not being able to work, and so, they don't think it's fair that, he has to be held to this strict standard and drugged back into court every time he's late with the child support, that when he's able to go out and make money, then he'll pay the child support. But if he's not making money, then there's no money for him to pay. And let me see, what else did she say? So she was saying all he wants to do is do right by his kids. We're done with Robert Kelly being... She says, we're done with R. Kelly being slandered. He's doing everything he can. He's in a situation where it's difficult for him to make money, and that basically he's going to do what he can do to get the money to her, because, he ain't got time for this. Is like one more thing that he has to deal with on top of all the other things that he's dealing with. And so, where y'all think R. Kelly getting this money from? That's what I want to know. Because I was talking to a friend of mine, we was talking about this case, and I was saying to myself, there are, people talk about all these celebrities. Like I was reading an article where they said that him and Michael Jordan were really close friends, and how Michael Jordan and all these other people used to go over to his house, to his mansion, and they used to have like these guy nights out with the women coming over and everything like that. And I said, I wonder, like, these guys aren't speaking up. There's a bunch of people that are friends with him that are not speaking up, but I'm wondering if they talking to him in, behind closed doors, and if they're the ones that's actually putting this money up for all this, to pay the child support, to pay this team of lawyers that then just appeared out of nowhere. Oh, and let me get the lady's name. I had it right. So the child support lawyer, her name is Lisa D'Amico, D'Amico. And then the judge was also saying that the only reason that the divorce was sealed is because they were celebrities, and that they have hundreds of these cases where celebrities and politicians, where they go through divorce or whatever, and the documents get sealed just for that. And then the D'Amico lady said, it's not just for celebrities. Anybody that can hire an attorney, that's sharp enough, can come in and ask that their divorce case be sealed. So don't be trying to make it seem like they received some kind of special favor or special attention because he was a celebrity, that anybody can walk in off the street and get this done. Oh, and remember in my video yesterday, I was asking, had Daryl been, the crisis manager, if Daryl had been fired. Okay, well, Daryl hasn't been fired because Daryl gave a statement. So he gave a statement to, is it E! Online, which is ETV? Is that what the Kardashians, the channel the Kardashians come on? So they met up with Mr. Johnson today. So when they called up with him, he had like a prepared statement. So his statement said, after reviewing the case, judgment brought several weeks ago, Mr. Kelly was vacated. Mr. Kelly paid $62,000, bringing child support current to date. My client now looks forward to clearing his name and being cleared of all charges in the near future. Mr. Kelly has placed a check for child support in escrow for June, July, and August in advance, Johnson says. Oh, and then when they called up with Drea, she says, all I can say is that this is a victory for my children, and I will fight for my children till the end. Okay, so but when is the end of this child support, Drea? That's what we want to know. So sound like these attorneys that they have now, the one guy who represented him in the civil case. Now, yesterday when he was talking at the press conference, I was kind of like, I don't know about him, because he was like, well, I dabble in a little bit of this and I dabble in a little bit of that, and I've been a lawyer since 2009. And I'm like, Lord, okay, so he's been a lawyer for 10 years, but he ain't got no firm foundation on exactly what it is that he does. So he was kind of like sounding like he might be an ambulance chaser, but he went in and he got the job done. He got the judge to vacate that judgment and to give them an opportunity to present a defense for R. Kelly. So we're going to hang in there with him. And then that Nicole Plank, I hope, because I kept saying, boy, the media about to do a deep dive on her trying to research all this information. And so I did a Google search on Miss Nicole, ain't come up nowhere. I was trying to Google like the office she said she was a prosecutor in. Child, ain't nothing come up on Miss Nicole, but she looked like she didn't play the radio, so we'll see. So guys, that's it for me in this little video. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about Drea and all her new demands. Do you think she's trying to do this for the growing up hip-hop, trying to get some footage to make her role relevant? Rate the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.